All right, welcome back. Today on today's episode, I have George Valdez, and George is I'll just call him a sales expert. He has a great redemptive story as well behind it. So, without too much intro, George, welcome.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for having me here. What's exciting about it is that I've seen your podcast, I've seen the people that you interviewed, and it's great to learn and understand others, right? Other business owners, entrepreneurs, everyone that's trying to make it.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, whether it's as a person, as an individual, but also in business. So thank you for inviting me. It's great to have these conversations.
Yeah, definitely. And you have, well, because I know you a little bit personally, you have a lot of like sales experience. I mean, you wrote a book, you have some guides that you wrote and so on, which we'll get into a little bit later. But maybe tell us a little bit about you today, as far as what you're doing, what your life is like today.
Well, I work for one of the largest financial institutions, a bank, of course, here in Charlotte. It's worldwide, of course, with there, I'm what we call with client education. So I'm always educating the client on the products and treasury that we introduce or we have a client to utilize in their business, whether it's wires or ACH payments or whether it's cross currency, you name it, anything that has to do with treasury and how to make their business efficient. I'm that one that goes in and trains that client on the products. But going back to what you're talking about selling is everyone thinks, well, that's the task part of it. But I always say, it's about connection. So I get those, let's just say, clients that are not so happy. And then they come to me and then I have to turn that relationship around. So I handle those escalations, those hard clients that are not satisfied, upset, whatever it may be. The thing is, so they give them to me and I turn that relationship around.
And in this case, you're doing more like business to business type
Business to business,
Okay.
yes.
So that's kind of your professional side. What about on the personal side? Like you're married, like whatever you want to share or don't want to share about
Well,
your personal side.
I'm going on 20 years of being married, going 5 years, 25, in fact. Well, 5 years we were together. We dated before we got married. And we have three children, 127, 117, and 111 at the moment, So my daughter's in Italy finishing her senior year. My oldest son lives in Puerto Rico. And my young one still's with us here, and he's a drummer and a soccer player. So we do that. It's really focused on family. So that's really number one. That turned around from career to family. So that's my number one. So it's just, we're living here in Charlotte probably 6 years now. We moved from the Outer Banks of North Carolina, but we've lived in, Miami. We lived in Atlanta, Houston. I lived in New Orleans. So sales and business has took me different cities,
And then maybe going back to your middle school, high school, when you were that old, whatever the age was. What was your personality like? What were you like back then?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, to be completely honest, the person that you see here that is talking, maybe seeming a little bit of extrovert, I was an introvert. I was always a kid. I was always lively, but in saying that, you're talking about in school, I had to put a defensive armor on in order to protect myself. The environment that I grew up in was a tough environment, whether it was in Houston or in Los Angeles. I lived in environments that were pretty tough, and you had to be pretty tough, or you weren't going to necessarily last there. What was great about that environment, it was still home, right? It was still home. You knew everybody. Everybody knew you. It was great, but you could tell that there was things behind the curtain that were dark, So in growing up those environments, whether it was drugs, gangs, murders, you name it, there's a whole checklist of what could be bad in a neighborhood, and most of those neighborhoods went through the full checklist.
So what was it like for you? Were you born in a family where you were? I'm trying to like phrase it in a way like were you in a community where it was like low income, so there were not that many opportunities, or like where did you come from in terms of that environment or that
Well,
culture?
it's funny because everyone says, "Hey, I grew up in the ghetto." I say, "Well, I grew up in the gutter." So the thing is, so it's just one little level below the ghetto. One thing about that is, but it was still Beverly Hills to me.
Hmm.
We didn't see it as that. It was our community. Low income, if you want to call that. Yes, it's low income, but again, it's one of those. It's not even. I don't even like to say low income. It's just a different mindset because everyone, no matter if you grew up in those communities, you still had the chance to get out of that community,
Hmm.
to grow, to scale, to become better. So sometimes you surround yourself with individuals in that specific mindset that kind of limits your mind of where you want to go versus, you know, I'm going to make it out of here. I'm going to do great. But sometimes you surround yourself with those individuals where, hey, this is all we have.
Hmm.
And that's so it limits you. So, in going back, I remember when I was selling shoes as a kid in a shoe store, and I remember a regular customer of this gentleman's business, Mr. Garcia, that owned this shoe store, said to me, this customer said, "Don't limit yourself of what you see outside." And I didn't don't be blinded by what you see outside. I
Hmm.
didn't get that until later on. Just meant don't think this is all that's out there.
Yeah.
So I decided I wanted to do was travel. I wanted to go out. I wanted to see something different. I wanted to experience something different. So that's what I had to do. I had to leave.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm asking about that, so for me, um, I'm originally from Ukraine.
Hmm.
My family, my parents moved from Ukraine to US when I was 10 years old.
Hmm.
But in moving here, we didn't have anything. We had to kind of relinquish everything or leave everything there because that Ukraine was still part of USSR, and
Right.
there was like you couldn't bring much with you basically. So when we moved here, we didn't have anything. So we were poor basically then as well. So there were some other people that moved from Ukraine to US before us, like a year ahead of us, and they kind of helped us out to situate us, like get us some rental and this
Hmm.
and that, some jobs for like my parents. They were like cleaning things or doing maintenance or whatever it was just to just scrape by. So I lived in the city, you could call it in the ghetto, but but I came from another country, so I guess I had some other exposure to what the world is like. So I went to city schools and all of that, but I feel like I was not stuck in that environment. Like what you brought up,
Correct.
like your friends or your circle of people around you can keep you down and tell you or by um subconsciously kind of let you know that you have no way out, right?
Right.
Like so maybe I didn't have that part to keep me down,
Right.
like in that state of mind. So it's definitely interesting how you mentioned the circle of friends or people that are around you could be the chains or the lock or whatever that's holding you back. So it's definitely good to for younger people out there. It's good to make sure you have the right kind of circle around you, not just people that will tell you that you have no opportunities and so on.
Well, I always say this, you have, around a lot of communities. I'm not just speaking about mine, but I loved my community. I loved my friends. I loved everyone. The reason why who I am today is because of them. Every
Hmm.
type of experience that I experienced in life was an event. It was an event, whether good or bad. It was an event. But it's almost, when you're doing the David and Michelangelo's cutting these pieces and molding, right? He didn't see anything, right? He saw this block and he's chipping away in order to see David because he saw David, but no one else saw it, right?
Hmm.
So they just saw a block of stone or marble, and then he chipped little by little. So those pieces I had to experience through life. But when I say that is because in some areas in your life, what will happen is you have crabs in a bucket.
Hmm.
So while one crab is trying to leave the bucket, the other ones will bring him down. So it could be a word. It could be not just a word, but just a mindset of saying, hey, we'll never be that rich or we'll never make that money. You can never do this or never do that. The
Yeah.
government will not allow it. We're not made for that. And you look around the neighborhood and you see you're seeing blue collared workers. You see people working. My father was a mechanic. He owned his own shop, you know. And then, my mother worked, in the health industry. So, meaning as far as in files, whether it's medical files, everyone was trying to do better. Everyone was trying to gain something and grow. But when you're living in that community, I always say you can't go ask someone that makes $50,000 a year how to create or become a millionaire, because they haven't made it.
Right.
So I don't go to the person that has a salary of $50,000 a year how to become a millionaire. You have to go talk to the millionaire, because then he'll tell you how to get to that point. And it's the same thing from a millionaire. You have to talk, if you want to scale, you have to talk to the one who did 500 million. And then from 500 million to, 200, a billion, right? So there's success leaves steps. You have to have mentors. So you have to surround yourself to those people to take you from one step to the other step. And it's there. The knowledge is there.
Yeah. So maybe going a little bit back into that time frame, you mentioned you grew up in Houston, right? How did you get about moving from there to LA? What was that story like?
When we're going to LA, I was a kid. I would always used to go to LA and visit. And then I decided, it was so funny because when I got to LA, I saw my cousin Letty, and she was a dancer, a ballet dancer, a jazz dancer. And I remember she took me to one of the studios where she was doing practicing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw just the way they flowed, the dance and the teacher teaching and the techniques. And I was just astounded, like, wow, look at how they move. Look at that. And it was just beautiful to me. Then she introduced me she was in the entertainment field. So then she would introduce me to actors or singers, and they all look like me.
Mm-hmm.
They were Latinos. I'm Mexican American, but they're all Latinos. I'm like, look at this. And then to find out they come from the same neighborhood or type of communities that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, that was my light. That was like, I can be just like them. And then that's what I did. I decided to kind of like refocus my mindset. So those little seeds that you plant, now it doesn't grow just miraculous. It's gradually, right? So going to Los Angeles, I was able to get there. Then I listened to music artists, and then I start writing poems. So that was by my 7th grade teacher teaching me how to write poetry, and then turning that poetry into music and songs. So within that time, just growing up, and then you're talking about, it was you're talking about the maybe mid 70s to later 70s and going into the 80s. Now the rap scene was coming through. And then now I'm in the streets, learning this new culture that just transferred or transitioned from New York City to LA. And the southern part, Houston wasn't even close to understanding that yet. So it was writing and battle raps in the parties and in the streets. So I became that part of that culture, so it was great.
So when you became part of that culture, there are some big names that you started working with, right? So how did you get introduced to them? What was your role as far as what you were doing in helping and so on?
Well, you have to remember, in that time, we were kids. It wasn't like we were kids. It's a culture. It's like jazz. When jazz started, they started in small little places and played music, and no one wanted to hear that. It was evil music at that time. It was bad music. Even rock and roll back in the 50s was bad music. So, going into that, I remember a manager was looking for a Latin rapper. Mm-hmm. Someone that was Latin Spanish but could rap. Yeah. Well, one thing about that is, when I did that, it was great because someone knew a manager that was looking. That manager happened to be a gentleman by the name of Ira Blacker that managed the rock group Rush. He managed Frankie Beverly and Maze. He managed Rod Stewart with Vanilla Fudge. So he was a manager to big names. Mm-hmm. So I was rapping in backyard parties, and you met from everyone from Cube and Eazy-E. You met everyone from Ice-T. So all these things that were coming together, I landed in a studio where I happened to meet, I would have to say, is my brother, who was, his name was Chili Chill. Then it was Swift Cat. But you're talking about Chili Chill, who's one of the top multi-platinum producers in the West Coast. We became partners in music, and I was working in a studio called White Tracks with Wayne Henderson, who's from the legendary jazz group, the Crusaders, out of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But he lived in Houston. So now I had another connection with someone like out of Houston. Wow, you came up from the same type of community I did. And now you own one of the best studios here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, off of Cahuenga. So it was great because now I was a little kid absorbing all this knowledge on music. Now, remember, I've never played an instrument, but I knew sound. My father was a trumpet player.
Mm-hmm.
He was a musician, but I never took up an instrument, but I knew sound. I knew everything from James Brown to Otis Redding to rock, you name it, I studied it. The sound of it, the lyrics part of it. I didn't know then that I was doing that, but I was. So at that point, whether it's meeting Ice Cube, but most important, it was being flown to New York City to record music out of studios there, where LL Cool J was producing Walk Like a Panther album, or working with Sam Sever, who did, Beastie Boys or third bass groups. I mean, I worked with some great producers, Wayne Vaughn, who wrote songs and the keyboardist for Earth, Wind and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
So, or Evan Pace, who did Stacey Lattiser. So I was working with some great producers and knowing all these people. And I was now working and be involved. Now, did I make $1 million? No, I was still a kid. I signed a contract, didn't even know what the contract was about. And then that specific manager owned me. So now he changed my name. So the person that they knew in the streets as the rapper in the streets, now his professional name was, I'm not even going to tell you the name, but it was just not a good name. So I was doing music for movies then, independent movies, under that name, which was like, at least they didn't know me. But everyone was like, when everyone was growing in their groups, King T, Ice Cube, Ice-T, everyone that was coming up into this genre that was this beautiful culture I was a part of it, but I was almost like in a shadow because I couldn't come out of it because of that name.
Mm-hmm.
So I think after signing with Tommy Boy Records, I got signed with Tommy Boy Records. Then I was with Warner Brother Records, with Warner Brothers. Then TVT Records out of New York City. So I had these contracts. But what happened is just the manager was taking funds and utilizing it personally instead of giving it to me for the equipment that we had ordered. Because when they found out hey, I'm waiting for this equipment. It's like, we sent you that money. And then that's how they found out. And then the week before my single was supposed to be released, I got dropped. And that's the music business. It's business, And so I was crushed. So now, I'm writing and I couldn't do anything. So I think after those specific times and what that happened, I just kind of said enough is enough. And then now I just go back and record. And now it isn't about getting a record there. Now it's just about having fun,
So back then you were trying to produce like your own, or not produce, but you were singing or rapping or
Rapping,
you were in front of the camera basically, or the microphone.
Right. Yeah, I love the engineering part of it, the production piece of it. Again, I don't know how to play an instrument, but what I did, especially when it came to jazz musicians or any type of artists, I would hire session musicians that were miraculous, just masters in their field and with their instrument. And I would come in, I say, hey, I need a bass line, and they could just do it by ear. Or if I needed a piano, and they could just do it. And like, I go, can you do a little lower? Okay. And then what we'll do is just, hey, I want you to kind of get that little flow there and just get to that rhythm. And then we would just kind of build the song just like that. Because building a song is just literally having different ingredients, and it's a recipe, just putting layer after layer after layer. That's what it is.
So were you a singer?
No, I wasn't a singer. I would, even though I could carry a tune and melody, the thing is, if I had a song that I was writing, I would just kind of hum it, and then I would sing it. and at that point hire someone to come in and say, hey, this is this part and I need you to sing it this way. And
Hmm.
then of course if it's a female, of course she was using her vocals and I hired her because of her vocals. We would put it together. So it's I don't want to say I could sing, but I could carry a little note. You know, I could carry a little note, but it helps me within the studio when I'm trying to have a singer or an artist or someone come in that this is the way I wanted to, this is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then utilizing their skills, their vocal skills, then it kind of magnified that, right? It made it even better, you know? So it just, so that's the great thing about that.
Yeah. What what is your understanding or your knowledge of the whole Tupac and whatever was going on, like how he got killed and all of that? Like, do you know anything about
Let's
that?
just say I wouldn't even say anything if I knew it. You're not gonna get me locked up. But you know, it was funny because I remember I was living in Houston. We moved back to Houston, and Chili Chill was part of that death row scene and everything, and everything you kind of heard of or heard was literally real or 10 times fold on that, right?
Mm,
It was pretty ruthless at that time. But you're talking about there's a lot of mess going on. Even when you know Cube left, and then you know Chill was working with Dre, you know Dr. Dre. Remember, I had left the scene, but I would just go back to record, or I would go back to LA, stay with Chili Chill, and the next thing you know it, we would just go hang out, or we would go to music or do production work, whatever we were doing. A lot of things were going on, and then he would of course tell me. And you know when you get into a scene where yes, you have business people but they're street business people,
hmm.
right? You're taking a street mentality and bringing it into a specific type of business. At that point, when you bring your friends along from the streets into that business atmosphere environment, well, remember you're bringing street into business. It's about to clash in one
Hmm.
way or another. Then you know you have egos, then you have personalities that clash. So where when it was the West Coast or East Coast thing that was going on, the feuding,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes it goes beyond just, hey, we're battling. You said something about me. I'm going to say something about you. Well, sometimes there's an invisible line that gets crossed where, oh, now I'm going to hurt you. Okay, now I'll hurt you before you hurt me. So it becomes something bigger. That's not just music scene. That's
Yeah.
called street scene. Remember, hip hop was from the streets. So you that's an environment that had that mentality to come through. So again, yeah, when it comes to that feuding that was happening between Tupac and Biggie Smalls, it was, you know, you sensed it, you were hearing things throughout what was going on, and it was a battle at that point. No one really believed that, but it was New York against, you know, East Coast against the West Coast. We didn't care about the South. The South wasn't in it yet. You're talking about it was just those two, you know, different coasts that were in it. You know, it was a tough thing, but you know, what's nice about it, again, when those things, the sad part about it, we lost two great artists, lyricists, right? Um, you lose anytime you lose great artists, you lose a part of what that culture is. You know
Hmm.
that culture is because it starts changing. You know, you can go back to hip hop back in '85, then you see how it changed back in early '90s. Then you see how it changed into so it's always evolving. Sometimes it doesn't evolve to be better,
Yeah.
but the thing is, but it evolves, right? That's
Hmm.
the key thing.
And so when it comes to whether it's music or Hollywood movies and shows and so on, how much of that is natural in the sense of like, okay, whoever is producing whatever piece of music or whatever piece of film, they're just producing it from themselves, versus having other people that are behind the scenes that are trying to utilize that industry for, let's say, not good things. Like there's a lot of stuff on the internet where people talk about that music is used almost like by Satan kind of a
Hmm.
thing to, people sell their souls and this and that and
Hmm.
all of that. And that music is then influencing these mass people, not for good, but for bad. Like, what's your view on that? What's like, being a little bit around that, like what have you seen? Like,
Whether the music is utilized to influence people in a negative way versus a positive
yes,
way.
yes.
Well, a lot of the raps or music that we did in the past was everything bad, but it was coming from the view of our environments.
Hmm.
It wasn't designed for top 40. It wasn't designed for the mainstream. It was music for us, by us, right? It was music that we created that we could relate to. So it wasn't a happy song. It was struggles. It was the drugs. It was the killings. It was everything and anything that was in you know, in our communities. Then you had those that spoke about change and transformation, whether it's understanding self-awareness, whether you were African American or Hispanic or Latino, and then at that point being proud of where you're from, right? And so there's a lot of things that happen within that sound. And when you're talking about whether my views on type of those musics that either influence them negative or positive, you know, here's a great example. You can pick up a Bible and one can read the Bible, and if you have that one mindset, they can interpret that way in a negative way.
Hmm.
They could say, hey, if God could kill millions in a flood and it's a sin, then I can go kill one person because he hurt me and be forgiven. So they can use all kinds of different mindsets. You can change what you read there. You
Hmm.
can. So one thing about, and it's your, what's tough about that is, do I want my 11-year-old to listen to music that has to do with making money, stacks of money, girls, drugs, drinking? No. So as a parent, I have to educate them on what they're talking about and saying, hey, this is how they view it. And when they look at all this stuff, this luxury stuff, that's like I always like to say, right? What we talked about is that attracts you, but it also distracts you
Hmm.
from what is right. So the attraction is versus well, it's the part of that distraction to keep your take your mind somewhere because you could be a writer and talk about, you look at horror movies. I love Stephen King. I'm a horror movie fanatic. I love horror movies. But I love the storyline, the
Hmm.
special effects of it. I love everything about it, the camera focus, I love everything about the details of how the production was made. The Exorcist, I would have to say, is my number 2 movie in my life.
Hmm.
The thing is, everyone say, how could you do that? Because you're inviting evil into the house, George. Really? Because the writer who wrote that was a beautiful writer. If you ever read the book, it's so distinct. I mean, you feel these emotions within that book. Then to put it in a movie and see how Linda Blair, with the makeup and her acting skills, this little girl that has to act like she's possessed, don't even know what possession is, but she had to act like that, and it was believable that it had a whole country in fear. So I, with my son Georgie Grayson, and then Zoe, who's my daughter, my wife, growing up in faith, is like, they can't see that. So I had to prepare them. I said, you know what? I have to show them, because I want him to understand what movies bring when it comes to emotion. And then what happened was I had to break down and then break it into pieces so he could understand it. Because when he saw the movie, wow, look at that makeup. You remember how, wow, it made it look so real,
Hmm.
versus them putting on the makeup and then presenting it on film. So, going back to what you're saying is, how do I feel about that? I think it's education. You have to educate the person that's going to be introduced to that music, because these days teenagers have a phone.
Yeah.
It's their lifeline. The thing is, so they see everything and anything. I mean, a 10-year-old will see more than what I saw, when I was maybe 13. He will see everything that the world, not all good. In fact, I would say most bad.
Yeah.
So you have to educate them before this educates them, and this becomes their teacher. You have to be their teacher as an educator and a parent.
Yeah.
So Not every song. I would have to say not every. I would probably say 90% of the songs that I wrote were not necessarily positive. But it was because of the environment that I lived in.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking, going back to my teenage years, middle school, high school side, and again, I was in the inner city, going to inner city schools,
Hmm.
so I saw other kids and like rap and kind of like the negative type of rap.
Hmm.
That's what they were listening to and kind of idolizing those rappers and so on. So it's like it seemed like that type of music influenced the youth of that time, not for good, but for not good.
Right, chasing money.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this, you can go and listen to songs now, and I still study, right? So I'm listening to somebody's lyrics, and it's like all they're doing the same thing, you know, driving around in a Lamborghini. They're carrying a gun. They're making stacks of money. They got a lot of go. They got a lot of girls. Well, guess what? If you live in a low income environment, you don't see that. You don't see all that. You see the superstars that maybe come back to the neighborhood, but you don't see that.
Yeah.
So in a young person's mind, if I make that money, I'm able to have that car. I'm able to have that jewelry. I'm able to have that mansion. And then also, you know what? I can come back and give money back to the community. Now, I don't know if every rapper does that, but the thing is, I got to let you know is that, it's almost like chasing dreams. I want to be a professional basketball player, to have all the girls and the money and the fame and have my own shoe. They do all that, right? So that's another way of looking at that. But then you see the basketball players and their character comes out: the drugs,
Yeah.
the arrests, the cheating, the divorce. So all these type of things, that come out, there's always, I always say, the grass is not always greener on the other side. You still find potholes.
Hmm.
So and you're right. The thing is, you go back when you were growing up, it's the same thing. We didn't idolize great artists. What we idolized was the drug dealers in the neighborhood. They had the fancy Mercedes Benzes and the Porsches and the gold. They had the money. They could walk into a restaurant and buy everybody, hey, put this all on my tab. They can walk into a club, put all the drinks on my tab. So man, I want to be just like that, to have that amount of money. What they don't know when you're looking at that is someone is always trying to kill them. They're either going to, and here's the truth: 99% of them get either locked up or killed or go broke. It's either one or the other. And still, even after they broke or they leave the business, there's that percentage that, you know what? They might lose their life because of their past.
Hmm.
So now they have to live life looking behind their shoulders all the time. So now they have to uproot and move somewhere else where no one knows their name. No one knows their past. So yes, it's tough because you would think that artists would be, it's our responsibility. So when we're singing or we're creating music, that we're creating it in a positive way to influence everyone in a positive way. The money is not in the positive. The money is in that reaction that people get. That's the thing about that, is like, you got beautiful singers, and then you got beautiful, you got rap artists that are just top 40, that are as far as commercial on top 40s or the radio. The thing is, and you have some like myself, that I don't care to be played on the radio. My music is not necessarily designed for you. My music is designed for me. I go, if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it, but I don't make music for you. I make music for me.
Hmm.
You know.
What would you say, or what advice would you give to somebody who's just coming out of high school or is about to come out of high school, in terms of what they should do with their life, or how do they figure out what to do with their life?
Well, if they're coming out of high school, shouldn't even be out of high school. But the thing is, it's the parents' responsibility to put those little golden nuggets before them. you know, you're talking about, for example, and I'll bring my son who's 11 years old. Yes, he's on the phone. Yes, he's playing Fortnite, right? The thing is, but we take time to learn music. When we're looking at painting, because we have an art room, the thing is, we study the artist,
Hmm.
whether it's Georgia O'Keeffe Andy Warhol, whoever it may be. We read about the artists, Van Gogh, and the reason why that. So we study the artist and then his technique, and then what we do is we paint a picture similar to what we have, well, how we interpret it, using his skills or his technique, the way he uses his brush strokes. So the whole key about that is you have to teach and educate them, because someone else will take them into the different way, right? Will direct them or influence them in a different way. The other thing about that is, what should they do? Wow. If I knew now what I knew then, if I knew then what I knew now, wow, things would be a little bit different. First of all, what I would do is I said, what do you want to do in life? What is your passion? What is going to make you smile? What is going to make you happy? Like right now, because it changes. Mm-hmm. What you are right now at 17 or 18 is different from when you're going to be at 21. And from 21 to 25 and 25 to 30, it always changes. But I always have that one that says, hey, I would always love to sing. I would always love to be a painter. Okay, what are you doing about it? Okay, so the thing is, Edward Olmos, a great actor, right? An actor, a Mexican-American actor. He said, and I remember in 5th grade, and I was looking at this show, and it was like a public TV show, whatever. And I would look at this show, and he was speaking. He said, if you want to be an astronaut, you could be an astronaut as a kid. And he's talking to a group of kids. All you have to do is, what you would do is you would go to the library and you would pick up a book that everything that has to do with being an astronaut. Everything. What you have to learn to be an astronaut. You would do this and you would study it. So by the time you're 18 and you're going into college, you're already an astronaut. Mm-hmm. You can go in and fly through, and you can go in and you can study as a doctor. Think about this. If you had a 6-year-old child and you started teaching about anatomy, biology, chemistry, everything that has to do with medicine and taking care or being a doctor, 6 years old, by the time he's 18 years old, guess what would happen? He would know everything about the body, chemistry, biology. Now he just needs to go in and get go into college and university and go through all this stuff. But he would be so far ahead because you taught him from beginning what to do, what to study in. He would be a master by the time he's 18 years old. So it's really important that you lay these things and you read. So I always say this, it's in sales. If I wanted to be a great salesman, well, I studied sales. If I wanted to be a great marketer, I studied marketing. I go to read a book, and then I find who the author is of that book. Guess what I'm doing? I'm reaching out to that author. Hey, Mr. Author, what would I do? How much would it cost? Or how can I be mentored by you? I was like, well, I don't do any of that, but you can buy this book, or maybe I can send you this, but I want to learn how to do this because I want to be just like you. Well, remember, let me go back to that, because I want to be just like you. Mm-hmm. I became a shoe salesman, not because I wanted to be a shoe salesman. I became a shoe salesman because I got in trouble as a kid. And the only one that would allow me to work in the business was a shoe store owner. I didn't grow up wanting to be a shoe salesman. What happened was I got in trouble, and the only one that would hire me or allow me to work was a shoe store owner, because I was a violent offender. When I went into the shoe business, well, I was a kid again. I was like, hey, and, turned it on. And I'm totally different at work than I am when I'm dealing with business. The people that I surround myself at my work and my job don't even know the business side of me. Mm-hmm. They know the funny, goofy George, the little dumb George, the little seems too smart George, but they don't know anything about my background. They don't understand that I've launched brands. They don't understand that I've worked with large corporations. They don't know that I've sat with CFOs and CEOs of large corporations. They don't know any of that. They see me in a desk talking to clients, and they say, oh, he's funny. Oh, maybe he's a little disorganized. Well, they don't understand that I understand chaos a little bit more than just having sheets nicely on the desk.
Hmm.
You know, the thing is, but I wanted to say that I want to be just like you. When I grew up in the shoe business, or as a kid, someone gave me a box of cassettes, 4 cassettes.
Hmm.
It was See You at the Top, and then it was Closing. It happened to be a man by the name of Zig Ziglar. I didn't know who this guy was. It was cassettes. I'm whatever, 15 or 16, whatever it was. And then I go in, 14 years old, and I go in, I put this cassette in my cassette player, and I hear this man talking about, I don't know what, motivation. It didn't last long, probably maybe 4 minutes or 5 minutes off. Clip it, and then put a hip hop tape on, right? Put a rap tape. The thing is, but little by little, and you know who was the one that gave me that tape? Was the gentleman that I said, that customer. Don't be blinded by what you see outside. Same person. So little people that sometimes make a difference. The thing is, so next thing you know it is, I studied, and then I started listening more. And then I started buying the books. Zig Ziglar. Then I drove, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of miles, maybe 1,000 miles. Then I drove to Tyler, Texas, a small town in Tyler, Texas. I was living in Florida, Miami. And I drove because I'm visiting accounts everywhere. And the next day, you know what? I listened to Zig Ziglar. It was the first time seeing him on stage. And I saw how he controlled the crowd. And I waited for, and then at the end, he always professes his faith. That he was a baptist, Jesus and God and everything. And then you see people walking away. Like, I came for the business part of it, came for the motivational part of it, but I didn't want to come here to get converted. So they would walk away. Mm-hmm. Then at that point, I waited till everyone left and he was on stage, and I walked up to the stage. I go, "Hi, Mr. Ziglar." I go, "My name is George Valdez and I want to be just like you." And he got on his one knee. He said, "George, you got to have bigger dreams than that." And the thing is like, and then he talked to me for a good 45 to 60 minutes. And we were talking, I was telling him about my life, and he goes, and I said, "Man, I just love people." I go, "And I just want to be great in what I do." And I'm a shoe salesman. Now I'm in wholesaling, not a shoe store. Now I'm in wholesaling. Now I'm selling shoes by the thousands and thousands to big department stores and independent retailers. Well, whatever happened, I got a call from his executive assistant, and I was flown to Dallas. Went up there, and I trained with Brian Flanagan, who was like his assistant, and then of course Zig, and they taught me one thing, because everyone that was there was trying to be a motivational speaker. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be a motivational speaker, but I wanted to help at-risk kids. But there's something struck me. The money is not in the motivation, because you can't change anybody. This is Zig Ziglar. "George, you can't change people. You can't. Mm-hmm. They need to change. They need to want to change first." I go, "The only way one can change is by God himself. But bottom line is, you can't change them. You can transform them a little, but they have to want that. So the money's not in the motivation, George, because I can come in and motivate you, and then you go out to the reality of your world and you lose the motivation. Inspiration is more powerful than motivation, because now I'm inspired." Yeah. At that point, guess what? He taught me that the money is in the education, not the motivation. So at that point, my whole mindset changed, where I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a guide. I'm going to be an advisor. I'm going to be a consultant. So now my whole view of how I was in selling was, I walked in to clients or retailers, whatever it may be, and I was a teacher. It's like, hey, this is what it is. So in order for me to know what I'm talking about, I had to study it. Then I had to utilize money to invest in mentors. So when you go back to what should one do after high school, right when they're coming out of high school, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? I understand your parents want you to be a doctor. I know your parents want you to do this or do that. And yes, because your friends are doing this, great. But what makes you happy? Okay, pick up the books. Let's go to the library. Let's pick up every book on that subject. Start studying that. Within a year, read it. Then after that year, you pick up the next set of books on that subject. Because everything, right? You can have a medical degree, but then you get specific. right? Whether it's brain, neurology, whatever it is,
Yeah.
cardiology. So now let's study about that because now you're getting into a specialty. So when it comes to me, you're talking about I'm a salesman, but look what I was selling. I could sell anything, but look what I was selling, shoes. That was my niche
Hmm.
because right there, I had a connection with shoe people. I knew their language. So now I'm able to talk about that, you know? I'm able to connect with them on that level.
Yeah. So, couple questions out of that. One is, for that young person when they're just trying to figure out what they want to do. You mentioned to figure out what makes them happy and kind of pursue that. Like, and my question was going to be, how do they find their deeper why? Like, why should I do this? Why should I do that? Like, what should I pursue and why should I pursue it? Because it seems like if you have that deeper why defined, that will motivate you to do whatever is needed to get there. But if you don't know why you're doing something, then you won't have that motivation, internal motivation to stick to it. So how would somebody again in high school, just coming out of high school, just starting their life, how do they find their why?
Mm, that's great. When you're talking about their why is, again, it all comes back to happiness. Listen, here's the reality of life, right? Music makes me happy.
Hmm.
I love being in the studio. Not on stage, I love being in the studio and being creative. Love that. That's why I still do it today. I love even I don't care if it's going to come out. If anyone ever hears it, it doesn't matter. I go, it makes me happy. It's like my little spiritual type of world in those little four walls with music and creating music. That's what makes me happy. Now, if I go into it, it's like I want to do it so I can make money. Two different things.
Hmm.
But the why, there's always a why behind it. There's only one reason for the why. I'm letting you know. It's joy and happiness. You do something that makes you happy. Now, the motivation part, reality kicks in because life is not just one road. It's a bunch of, it's like this, right? You ever see the little meme or little sketch where, hey, this is success. It's not this way. It's like
Right.
this, right? Ups and downs, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. So in saying that, when I started in the music business, what happened was I was having to get a part-time job, right? The shoe business in order for me to support buying certain equipment. I had to work in order to get those funds in order to support buying equipment or doing this or clothes, whatever it may be, studio recording time. That was my funding, right? So you still have to do something in order to fund your dream. Now, sometimes you see artists that, hey, they're painting. You know, they're painting and they're painting and they're painting and they're painting on the streets of New Orleans and New York City. You can walk down the street and you see an artist.
Hmm.
He's not rich. Great artist. His stuff is not sold in galleries, but he's a great artist. What makes him happy? It isn't the money. It isn't the fame. It's the work. It's his passion. So, one thing to understand about the why is there's not always wealth or money that comes with that why. It's what makes you happy. How do you find that? How do you stay motivated? Well, if you want to be happy, that's your motivation. You just continue to do it. Continue to do it. We get lost in growing up as men to be providers, protectors. And you know what? We leave all our dreams behind of what we could have been. I could have done this, Georgie, if I would have did this. I could have been great if I did this. I could have done that if I did this. But what happens is sometimes we just do this and we give up
Hmm.
and said, oh, let me put this above all. Let me do this above all. My priorities change. Now it isn't me anymore. It's about working and making money and a salary, putting my career, my family ahead of me being happy. And then you walk through life like, man, if I only just stuck what I did and did what I loved, I would have been so much more happy. My family, yes, they make me happy. My job, yeah, so. But you know what? But I sure did love painting. I sure did love sculpting. I sure did love making music or playing my guitar, even if it was a small little bar with my acoustic and just singing. I felt like I was singing to millions. That is the difference on the why, because that's the joy. It's always the happy, you know.
Hmm. But you still have to balance it, right? Like there's a term, starving artists, right? Like you still have to do something to make a living as
Always.
well,
Always.
right?
That's what exactly what I said. You
Yeah.
have to fund it. You
Yeah.
gotta eat. You
Right.
know, you have to eat. You can open up your guitar case and get change, but that doesn't necessarily is gonna fund your rent, you
Yeah.
know, or support a family. So you have to have that. I told my kids, this is true. I always told my kids, you know, we need a doctor and we need an attorney in our family, because if I'm sick, I need someone to help me. If I get in trouble, I need someone to bail me out. So I use that as a joke. But I always say that it's very important that you go out there. And the reason why I was saying that, you got to go out there. I go, do something that you're passionate. My daughter loves helping out children. Why don't you become a pediatrician? Well, I can also be a psychologist. You can. I go, and your niche would be children, because you know the children behind, you know your friends that are going through some tough times, and you would be able to help them. Those same kids, your friends that are going through tough times in their own family, that they're crying on the phone with you at 12 a.m. or 11 a.m. I mean 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. in the morning, when now you're not supposed to be on the phone, but you got your door closed, Zoe, but you're talking to them under the covers because they're crying to you because they're going through a family situation. You would be able to take that experience, write it down in a book. I go, write it down, because you're going to have a book later on about what you learned about those experiences, that you're going to utilize that knowledge of when that type of age, because we do forget, that you'll be able to assist someone going through a challenge like that. When you're the psychologist, when you're the doctor, you'll be able to connect, not just engage.
Yeah. In your story, you mentioned that like at work now there's like almost like two versions of you, one at work and one how you used to be or how you are with closer people. What was like, what is your rationale behind that, like not being necessarily the same everywhere?
Well, you know, I want to say this. Um, I like to say that when you're in sales, everyone talks about a service or product.
Hmm.
That's They're in sales. I got to sell a product or I got to sell a service. It's a business. But what a lot of people forget is that you're the number one product. It's you. You sell yourself. Not everyone is made and created for your business. Not everyone fits your business. You don't want every customer. You don't want everyone out there. You want specific people. You break it down. It's like, I want this type of client.
Hmm.
You know, I don't want every shoe store owner or retailer reaching out to me. I don't want them. Very specific of who I want to talk to, or invest my time with.
Hmm.
Because you have those that are very close-minded, that God Almighty can come in and try to help them and they wouldn't even take his advice. And then you have those that, you know what, is like, you know what, show me. I want to get better. My business is suffering. Help me. Please, I need this. There's a cost to this.
Yeah.
Whatever I need to do, I'll pay that. But I just need to know how to generate more traffic into my store, foot traffic. I need you, George, to show me how to sell more of my products out the door, because I'm receiving lots in the back door from the companies, but they're moving very slow through the front door.
Hmm.
So how would I do that? Is, you know what? It's Here's a sales technique that most don't know. It's called mirroring.
Hmm.
So in other words, is when I go in and I meet a CEO and they're talking like this, "Hi, George, how you doing? Great. How you doing?" It's like, perfect. Hey, welcome and thank you for joining me today. Just want to talk about this real quick. Is, you know, I've been going over here the metrics on sales and, you know, forecasting, whatever it may be, and they can talk in monotone. They can be very serious, suit and tie, everything. Well, I have to go in like that.
Hmm.
The thing is, because I can't go, "Hey, how you doing?" It's like, so the thing is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's a disconnect. So you have to go in and mirror and say, and it was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then little by little, increase the volume so they see my personality.
Hmm.
But it's performing, because what happens is I make a deeper connection. I break down that wall. The wall comes like, "Oh, he's funny. Oh, he's cool. Oh, he likes this, what I have. He likes this, he likes that. So they don't see me as business anymore. When a client calls me that they need help or going through their training, listen, they might call me and they're upset because it took 3 months to get all this stuff connected, whatever it may be. I don't know. But bottom line, if they come in and they're huffing and puffing, that's like, you know what, Jerry, listen, I understand that. I get it. I would be upset too. I would be upset really bad. But you know what? I'm going to change that right now. I'm going to promise you that. And it's like right now, by the end of this call, I promise you, you're going to love me, but you're going to love where you leave off. I go, and I'm going to allow you to reach out to me. I want to make sure that you can connect with me, that if you have that one question, I'm going to answer it. Might not be in 5 minutes, might not respond in 1 hour. It might be 24 hours, but I will respond to you. Thank you, George. That is all I'm asking for. That's it. And I got him. So when I'm there, I get to have fun and be silly. I like to be silly when I'm around performing. It's a performance. They see me as the funny guy, the one that comes off with different sayings and, or improvising, whatever it may be, but they haven't seen the ruthless guy, the business guy. Again, I've launched brands, I've gone in, I've, being very strategic in how I do my marketing. Everything I do when it has to business is very strategic, very strategic. They don't see that side of it. Mm-hmm. They just see the funny performer guy.
Mm-hmm. And how did you learn all of that? Like just by doing it, just practice, trial and error?
Are you saying learning what?
Learning how to act in certain scenarios. Like, well, you kind of gave a sales example with the mirroring thing, but like knowing that in this situation you need to be more funny, in this other situation you need to be more serious. Or
I don't go on blind dates.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I was dating, I never blind date. I never went on a blind date because I don't know that person. When I was out dating, I wanted to find out about this person that I'm going to meet. I wanted to find out their interests so then I can adjust who I'm going to be for that date. Now, everyone says like, why would you do that? I only had one mind thought at that point when I was dating. I wanted to be the winner. I didn't want to come in second place. I wanted to be who that person chose for me, right? I mean, I wanted to be chosen. That, hey, I want to go out with you. Yeah, I want to date with you. I want to date you. Now, I'm not saying lying. I'm saying that if this person enjoyed sports, I'm not necessarily a big sports guy. But I would try to learn about those sports. So I'm always researching, right? So you're saying how do I prepare and that, or how do I see myself is, I have to research who I'm going to talk. I don't go on blind dates. I'm not going this is the bad part about business when it comes to offering a product or service. We're cold calling or we're knocking on doors. But the way I did it is I put myself out there because there's so many like-minded individuals like me. So what I would do is cast a large net, right? Instead of, I go out there and then I'm kind of swooping in like, who's interested in me? Mm-hmm. Who's interested in what I have? Then at that point, if it's 3 to 5 or 10, then that's where my focus is. Because now I can focus on who wants me, not I want them. You don't go into a club and say, hey, and excuse this language, hey, I go, hey, my name is George. I would like you to sleep with me. What's the percentage? So, I mean, maybe for you, Jerry, but I'm just saying, but I'm just letting you know, it doesn't work out well that way. The percentages, that's just too off. But me, if I got to know you, your interests and research who you were and your likes and your wants, it's more better to sell the want versus the need. Mm-hmm. You want somebody like this. You want somebody with this personality. You want someone that does sports. You want someone that exercises. You want someone that eats this type of food. If I find out your wants, well, guess what? It's easier to connect with you because now we're the same. Oh, he's just like me. Oh, he loves what I like. So it's all about preparation. I never go into something without preparing. Mm-hmm. Never. Very rare that I would come in here today. I didn't know what you were going to talk about. So I don't know. I'm just going off of my feelings inside. You
Yeah.
ask me a question, I'm going to give it to you. There's no gray. I'm going to give it to you black and white, whether you like it or not. It's a podcast, right? This is
Right.
your show. I want to make sure if they want to know me, then they know who I am. So that's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
But I prepare always for what I go into.
Yeah. So speaking of Zig Ziglar and your process in learning from him, what are like, let's say, three top things that you learned from Zig Ziglar?
Oh, you know what is self belief? That's one. Self belief is you got to be bigger than what you think you are. It's you got to do a checkup from the neck up. He says, right? You got to make sure this is stronger than anything else because anything can come in and poison it very easy. Whether it's the newspaper, people will wake up and read newspapers that back in the days. Remember
Hmm.
what was the newspapers? All negative news. You can go on to the news today, and it's all negative news. And you can go on to social media. It's all negative. You see the dirty of the dirt there. You see, girls in bikinis, and you see this and violence. All this stuff enters your brain. People don't think it's like, it doesn't affect me. It affects you. It affects you. So it's who you surround with, what you allow in your mind, what you allow in your circle, who you allow in your circle. Listen, if I'm hanging around with four drug addicts, guess what? I'm probably going to end up being the fifth one pretty soon because it just happens. The more you surround yourself with specific groups, people, mindsets, guess what happens? You become one of them. So I want to be surround myself with great people like yourself. I want to be surrounded by people that are focused in business and success and faith, everything that has to do with making my life just one step better. My job is to be a better human being in life, to be a better father, to be a better husband. We don't have a guide for that, Jerry. So that's why you go to a camp. That is why you read a book on how to be a better husband or be a better father. That is why, those that want to be more connected with God opens the Bible. So the thing is, all these type of things it's there. You have to implement yourself to do that. So when you got to protect what goes here because then it goes here, right? So that is very important. And then again, what I learned about again when it comes to Zig is education has more value than motivation because motivation dies out. But once you know something, you never lose it because you own it. It's there, you know? That's the great thing about knowledge. No one can take it away from you.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, and then when it comes to the third thing is, I think it has to do with you're in the people business. You're in the people business, not in the product business, not in the service business, the people business. You gotta love people. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. So you learned a bit about sales, education, and so on. Uh, then you were doing some marketing, and offline you told me a story about Zappos and how you got connected with the CEO there. If you could kind of rewind back on why did you reach out and what was that story like?
Okay, well, easy. Everyone thinks, look, here's I believe marketing is above sales. I can have a product and I can have a service, but if no one knows me, doesn't matter what I have. The thing is, so I truly believe that I need to attract someone. Someone needs to know me in order to engage and connect with me. When it comes to Tony Hsieh and Zappos, this was a long time ago. He didn't have this big giant office. He had a cubicle along with he was right there in the mix with everybody, his team. He didn't see himself above anybody. He was equal to all. When what I did was funny, I wanted to interview him. I saw him with one of my mentors and he talked about happiness. He just was writing his book about happiness. And his family was there. Some of his family, I think his sisters, whoever it was like few family members were there, and it was a mastermind group. I used to be involved with mastermind groups. I would pay $25,000 to be with a mastermind group for the year. All these entrepreneurs, maybe 10 of us, would meet wherever we were going to meet at. And these people were rich, multi millionaires. Me, not even close. I was a shoe salesman.
Hmm.
But I made sure that I saved up to be with this mastermind group. So what happened was we were in a mastermind group and we were in Vegas, I believe, and next day, or Scottsdale, Arizona, one of them. But Tony Hsieh was there, and his family members was the first time they were seeing Tony Hsieh on stage. And there were, again, remember, there's maybe 15 of us. It wasn't big. Next thing you know it, he was talking about happiness. What brings him happiness? It wasn't the business. It was being part of the family and helping people.
Hmm.
Remember the why, happiness. So at that point, he was talking all about this stuff, and as soon as he got off, I rushed to, I was like, I'm in the shoe business. I'm in the shoe business. Really? He's like, yeah. So I just wanted to take a picture with you. And then next thing you know it, so of course people, we're all in line and everybody wants to talk to him, but I just shied away, wasn't going to try to steal his time. That wasn't me. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I created these big postcards. I don't know if it was 11 by 14. I don't know, but they were big postcards. I had a designed, and then I would, hey, I want to meet, and I had pictures of me on it, and it's like, hey, want to meet, looking for a single man, blah, blah, blah. Like the silliest stuff you could ever think of. It was the craziest stuff. And I do crazy marketing. I don't like boring stuff. I like crazy because that gets attention. I set it up where each of these specific, I had probably 8 created. So I created the copy, the writing on it. So each of these items were getting mailed every week. I sent little plastic bottles with little papers inside, and they were stamped, and they would mail, and he would receive them. A little treasure chest tin box that had a note in this inside. I had everything and anything. Plastic bags that you would get a Ziploc bag. I would put it, and I put a note there, was maybe something, I don't know what I would put. Bottom line, he would get that. Now, at one point, I'm sure he's like, who in the heck is selling me all this junk? And I'm reading this stuff. Who's this? Who's this? You know what? And I said, I want to interview all of your managers of the key parts of your business, of your operation. Guess what? He set up in an interview. I was in a little room, and I was there from probably 8 in the morning to probably 6 p.m. in the evening. And we had an hour to an hour and a half each. And I interviewed everything there. I even skipped lunch. The thing is, it was just all, and then I had all that recordings right there, just like a camera. It was just one little camera. I didn't even have no remote. I would have to go click it, okay, and sit down and smile, and then just have somebody edit it out, and then of course break it up into pieces. But I just wanted to know what makes you important. What's important to this service? You're the service manager. You run everything with, or your call center, or this. Well, bottom line is they explain the whole principle, the environment, everything, the culture within Zappos, and they broke it down. And then Tony Hsieh, how he came into be, as far as him and his partner, selling a pizza, whatever it is, they would buy it for $5 and then flip it for $15 or $20. And that's how they started coming in and growing together. So it was just remarkable to see how something so small turned into something so big. Now remember, even though it was millions of dollars, they weren't making any money yet at that point.
Mm.
It was just revenue. It was just business, no profits. And then it was sold, and the next thing you know, look at that, sold to who? Amazon. So you're talking about this money was just coming. So great person, great person, and God bless his soul. He passed away, but again, it's just I did that with it. Brian Tracy, another sales trainer. So I studied, I reached out. So marketing helps you connect. That's why I'm a true believer of marketing. And even though my company then was called Mofo Marketing, so it's like I had to, that was a little extreme. So I said, hey, you know what? Just Footwear Business Profits. That's what I created. And then being the shoe dog guru as I am.
What was your reasoning to want to connect with him? Like,
To learn.
Why did you want to learn?
Learn. Knowledge. Everything is knowledge. The thing is, I connect with someone to learn. Remember what I said? If I want to be a millionaire, I don't talk to the $50,000 guy a year. I talk to the millionaire. So with Tony Hsieh was trying to see his service part about it, because no one can compete with him when it came to service. Oh, you bought these shoes, you want to return them? Sure. Okay, return them. Yeah, they're worn? Return them. So the thing is, it was one of those type of things. It was like Nordstrom's. If you think about Nordstrom's, you go to Nordstrom's. Hey, you didn't buy these shoes here, but we'll take them back. Don't worry, we'll give you a refund. We'll take care of you. It's like, wow, who does that? It's like, that's those wow moments. That's the factor, is I wanted to learn structure, processes within a business of that size.
Hmm.
When you take a $600 million business, you want to know, like, how did you come up with it? And then how do you sustain it? What is the secret? I wanted the secret sauce. I wanted the ingredients. So it had to do with the culture to empower people, putting those people in place that are smarter than you, that are passionate just like you, that, hey, you know what? Take care of them. That's all it was. Take care of the customer. Take care of them.
But you wanted to learn all of that, not just for academic knowledge. You wanted to learn it to be able to apply, right?
So of course, it's always application because, knowing something and not doing something is the same as not knowing. So you know what? It's funny because when I used to go, give you one example, I won't mention the retailer, 12 stores, whatever he had. I go in there. He hired me, paid me, I think it was $70,000. Paid me, said, hey, I want you to come and change my business. I said, give me 18 months and I'll transform it. I guaranteed that. 18 months. I would have gave him back the 70,000 or whatever it was, right? The thing is, when I went in, I was already doing my homework before even transitioning. So I went in, I was a secret shopper. I would go in, act like I was a customer. I would stick around and I'm looking at managers, the people how they talk, the salespeople. I'm looking around. I'm just taking an assessment. I wanted to see how long did it take somebody that when I put my foot in that door, how long did it take somebody to greet me? I wanted to hear what the words they were going to say to me, the greetings, whatever it may be. I wanted to see how the front of the windows looked, the product. I wanted to see when I walk in and I do this on a shelf, is it dusty? I wanted to see if there's dust bunnies on the floor. I wanted to see what I need to do. What is my first what?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that whole interaction. So when I went in there, the thing is, I wanted to be able to apply that stuff. So when I said, hey, George, remember, it's knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing, right? So I went in there. I go, hey, you need to get rid of this manager, this manager, this manager. In your warehouse, you need to change this out because there's no process. Everybody's in reactive mode. That's why things falling through the cracks. Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I go, now we need to have a training program. Everyone needs to be trained. Everyone needs to follow the script that I wrote for you, that I'm going to write for you. Why? It's like it loses their stuff. No, it isn't a script. It isn't a Hollywood script. It's just a normal greeting that they will utilize their personality. In fact, now I don't want you to hire your friends anymore. I want you to hire people that have passion and talk to people. We hire personality first. We teach the skills second. And his brain is going like, guess what happened? No, you can't fire them. They've been with us for 5 years. They've been with us for 8 years. I go, and he's earning $50,000 or $40,000 from you a year, but he's not producing anything. He's smoking cigarettes outside at least 10 times a day. He's on the phone, not even taking care of clients. I go, he's a great guy. I go, but do you want a great guy or do you want a great manager to produce? Do you want a great guy or do you want a great manager to lead your team, to teach them how to sell? So guess what? Nothing changed. So automatically what happens is like, you didn't, come to the end of your deal. Well, it wasn't 18 months. It was 12 months. Not because he said goodbye. I said, guy, I got to go because there's no use for me being here. There's no use for me helping me out. It's like a doctor. You're a diabetic. Don't eat sweets. Take your insulin or take your meds. I go, if you lose this amount, if you exercise and lose weight, I'll take you off the insulin. I'll take you off the pills. But if you don't do it, is it my fault? I'm responsible to you, but I'm not responsible for you. You have to grow up and make that decision. You have to make those decisions. So with me, what I was utilizing, Jerry, was taking that knowledge from Zappos on processes and then utilizing those same processes for small mom and pop stores because they think we're too small. We don't need that. Yeah, you do, because it's called a turnkey operation. What does that mean, George? That means you should have a book that if I came in today and say, I want to buy your business, I don't have to work at it. All I have to do is look at your book. This is what I do first. I open the door with my key. I come in, I lock the door behind me. Then I go to the alarm and turn the alarm off. Then I go into the safe, open up the safe, bring out my till, my register till. I come in and I count the till to make sure everything is there. How many ones, how many tens, how many fives, how many quarters, everything there. So that way I know by the end, everything should match. So all these details should be right there in steps. It's a process. So once you don't have that, which they didn't, guess what happens? Now you're just winging it.
Yeah.
Business isn't about winging it. It's about a process in order to get from point A to B to C, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about things you've done. Like I'm looking at your book right now. So the Ultimate Guide to Footwear Retail Business Profits. So tell me a little bit about yourself as far as, this book and things that you offer, or as far as business.
Perfect. Well, if you look at it's about shoe business, right? It says footwear retail business,
Yep.
right? What if I said it's the guide to retail business? Then I'm one of many. Meaning, you can go online right now and look up. Hey, I want to look at consultants, retail consultants. You'll find a bunch of them, a whole bunch of them on Google. You go on, who's a footwear retail consultant? Very rare. You'll find more than maybe 3 or 4. They might talk about shoes, but the thing is everyone thinks that book is a book. I didn't want to be an author. My mentor taught me this, a marketing expert, big time marketing guy. And the thing is, I'll even say his name is James Malinchak. He was in the show The Secret Millionaire, but he was, when we started he was my first mastermind. And it was great because I met great business people. And you're talking about, he taught me something about the power of, being an expert, an authority, the power of authority. How do you become an authority in your field? What makes you an authority? What makes you an expert? Well, I can tell you this. I can go around and go to shoe stores and say, hey, I never owned a shoe store before. I go, but I know a little bit about the shoe business and how to sell shoes. Oh, well, great. Thank you. It's like whatever. And they'll pass me by. They'll pass me by. So after all of my research and studying great retailers and retailers that suck and those in between that struggle, the thing is, I said, you know what? I'm going to go in with an education mind, the same way I did with Zappos. I go in, I'm looking at your business. I'm seeing everything, studying, assessing. You haven't hired me. I'm just visiting your store. I'm here to sell you shoes now because you want my brand. But I'm also looking at your business and how you run it. I'm looking at your stock room. I'm looking at everything, looking at your desk, how messy it is and things all over, invoices, you name it. I'm listening to you complain about this or that or your employees or even your family. I hear it all the time. So then what I did was I leave there, I go to the next show. I would probably visit 4 to 5 stores a day. Then I would get to the hotel between 9 or 10. And then I would stay up to maybe 1 or 2 in the morning writing all my notes, taking my notes and stuff. And then, because I used to write when I used to get in my car, write these notes real quick, bullet points. Then next thing you know it, take all that information. Ooh, what made him successful? Ooh, what's making him struggle? Ooh, why this guy sucks. I would put that, say, you know what? I'm going to put this in a book. And the reason why is because I was taught by my mentor, George, what is all your other competitors, your sales rep, the sales reps around your industry do? Oh, they go knocking on doors. They'll send a pamphlet or a postcard. They'll maybe meet them at a show and they'll call, hey, I'm going to be in this booth at this trade show. Come by and say hi. I want to show you my brand. And the thing is, they'll do all the same thing that everyone else does. How are you going to be different? They have cards, business cards, George, right? Yeah. Why don't you write a book and let that be your business card? So that's marketing. I didn't want to be an author. I don't even care to be an author. That wasn't my goal in life, but I'm an author. The thing is, in fact, I said, who's going to publish it? Why not create my own publishing company, Valdez Capital Publishing? That's my own publishing company. Got an EIN on it. The thing is like, oh, now I got my own little publishing company. Is it a big giant company? No, but it's mine. So the thing is, then I just print out books. They can get it digital form. So that is my business card. So guess what? I used to carry at least 5 with them every time that I would go to a trade show or whatever. I would have a box with them in my hotel room. And then what would happen is the next thing you know, Jerry, so you're a person that's working in a retail store, and then you never met me from Adam. You sat at the table, we're having dinner, whatever it may be, and there's other reps there and people and other business owners, and next thing you know it, they're like, hey, so what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm over here. It's like, oh yeah. Well, I help out, I sell shoes for this brand, but it's like I help out retailers, drive more traffic into their business. Really? You do that? Yeah. It's like, it's like, hey, it's like, do you have a card or something? I don't have a card, but here's my book. Perception.
Mm-hmm.
A book? Yeah. Oh, this is a book, like 300 and something pages. Yeah. And they start flipping. Wow. Yep. Wow. Wow. And it's like, wow, okay. Now I'm not a shoe salesman anymore. I'm an author. Now I'm an authority. So that's a marketing piece. So the thing is, everything I did was to lead them into my funnel, my sales funnel. So it's very important. I need to get them to my website. And the thing is, and once from the website, they know a little bit more about me. So they go to georgevaldez.com and it's like, oh, look, he started as somebody that was at risk. Oh, look, then he started doing this. Oh, look, now he studied under these folks and now he's this. Now he's got a book. Now he's offering training. If you go to one tab, oh, wow, it costs $10,000 for a full, for his full speech. Well, that's the great thing, because now I can choose either to work with you or not. I don't have to, because you take away my time, and if it's going to be a better investment. That one owner, remember I said, that one owner that I taught for that 12 months and did nothing out of it. I said, you know what? Now in life, today, I make a decision that I will only work with those that I want to work, that is interested in investing and is going to change. And within this particular benchmark in time, if they don't change it, then I'm gone. You gave me the money. I told you what I've got to do in order to transform your business. So you don't come back and blame me that I didn't do my job or it was my fault, when automatically it was you that didn't do what I asked you to do, that you had to take action on, So that book is really important. That book right there, if someone was starting a shoe store, opens that book, is like, it would transform their mind. Now, they might be expert. They might have been in business for 100 years, a shoe family. And the thing is, but still it might be elementary to them at some point, but like, wow, look what he says about mindset. Look what he says about controlling your time and how to value your time. This is how much I'm spending on not doing anything versus something. So it tells you that, how to track your time and manage that, and looking at the value of your time. So it's a very important book. In fact, I'm almost completed with my custom. It's going to be that's the first book in a series of 5. The next one will be service. The next one will be manager and marketing, and then sales. So all into one. The most important one that I'm going to be doing next, be after the service, is sales, because I think people need to know how to sell. So that way they understand, well, it doesn't matter if you own a clothing boutique, a women's clothing boutique, use the same principles that I show in that book on how to sell. It's not your regular selling book on how to greet and say hello and, oh, let me show you how this looks, and maybe cross-selling and it'll match with these shoes. None of that stuff. It's the psychology of selling, how to become authority in selling, how to influence in selling, because at the end of the day is, who are you? What makes you better than anybody else that's on the same block at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, that's definitely great. So do you still offer some of these services, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's more now. It's more referred. For example, it's funny because someone recommended me. Now it's more being referred. Someone recommended me to a company out of the West Coast. They wanted to pick my brain, and my wife gets always slapping my hand wrist because, George, they call you to learn about you, and then you teach them all in 2 hours on what they need to do about their business, and you don't get a cent from that. You just talk. And I go, I'm helping them. At least it's free. Just because I tell them doesn't mean they know how to do it. I could tell you how to change a faucet. Doesn't mean they know the practical actions to take in order to change that faucet, which I don't know how to change a faucet. I just got to let you know. But The thing is just because I tell you doesn't mean that you're going to go and understand the actions or the psychology behind it or
Hmm.
the task behind it. So with that, yes, because that company that hired me as, hey, how do I take my brand that I'm competing with everyone else? I said, easy. I go, tell me about your market. Tell me about this. Who's your market? I said, oh, do this. You're going to be able to do this, 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 this. Really? Oh my God. Let me take it to my CFO, my CEO. Then they come back. George, we want you. Great. So I go there and it's creating music and almost creating, I told him, what you need to do is you need to be what you're doing here, Jerry. You need to be disconnected in some way, but be an authority.
Hmm.
At this point, when you're coming in, you're gonna catch and you're gonna market to that specific audience. When you market to that specific audience, then you're gonna gain more audience, more subscriptions, more likes, more followers. And the next thing you know it, now they're gonna love your brand. And it's gonna say right there, hey, sponsored by this brand. They don't see you that you are the brand, but they're saying sponsored by this brand. So they see like, oh, he's not the brand trying to sell me. He's being sponsored by this brand. What is that brand? So it kind of breaks that wall that you're trying to sell them something, right? So at that point is I went over there, I did that and connected. Someone called me to launch a cooler to compete with Yeti,
Hmm.
big brand, right? Or Igloo, right? But it was Yeti was the one they're trying to compete with. They had a great thing. They were able to put an umbrella right in the middle of it, and the thing is and they had two different coolers on each side, one for food, one for drinks. And the thing is, but this umbrella that you're able to put in, it's beautiful, great thing. Well, they flew me to Chicago. They didn't have no distribution, zero. I was excited with them. I was like, come on, we can do this. I'm going to show you how I do this.
Hmm.
Next thing you know it, I did my marketing, got people to come to the booth. Next thing you know it, one account, over 300 stores. Then I had online, it's like Wayfair and all these different types of companies to offer the product.
Hmm.
So let's just say they walked out with 500 accounts ready to open. They need the product, and including all the online businesses that they're ready to open. I had those online business calling me every single week, emailing, "Hey, have you got the paper? Have you got the contracts? Have you got the contracts?" So I told them, so this is where being uneducated on the business comes in, which affects everything, not knowing.
Hmm.
They went in saying, hey, oh my God, we got this person is going to give us 300 stores to bring in maybe 5 coolers each. They're going to put 5 coolers in each store. Do the math. So the thing is, now the coolers are $80, 80 to $100,
Hmm.
right? So now guess what happens? Or even more, it was more than, but you're talking about they wanted the retailer to give the money up front.
Mm.
So now you have a client, an owner that is giving you 300 stores plus 300 plus stores, but you want them to pay for it up front. It doesn't work like that. They're not there to give you a loan. So you want my money to go make it, and then you're going to take your profits out of it and then give me my product. Doesn't work like that. Need to have the capital to create that product, manufacture it, have it warehoused and ready to ship when those orders come in. And then give them 30 days to pay it, and then they'll pay it. 30 to 60 days. Now, some clients will say, hey, you got the product? Great. I'll write you a check right now. Just bring it. I'll bring it in, but we'll give you a discount for writing this many, but I need the money at this point, right? Whatever it is. So at that point, they didn't have the capital. They had the dream. They had the demo products, but they didn't have the capital. So even when I told them about the cooler, I said, where do they normally use coolers at? I go, this specific cooler was an umbrella. Well, games, George. And then we have games and we also have the beach. Really? Pick up that cooler. Yeah, it's a little heavy. What happens with a cooler that's that heavy with those wheels in sand?
Hmm.
It'll get stuck. I go, it won't work in the sand. You're going to get a lot of complaints that this thing don't work in the sand. They got to drag it. How do I know that? Because I lived on the beach. It'll go on a field, a soccer field or a football field, but not the sand. So you're going to have to inflate the tires a lot more in order for it to be able to roll on the sand. So you see, it's from the outside in. You have to hire people to see from the outside in to assist you. As a business owner, we think our business is great. We think we have the best products, the best services, and everything. But sometimes you have to reach out for outside just to kind of give you like a view. And I want to just say this real quick. An example: James Malinchak, my mentor, played college ball. The thing is, and he was practicing outside at this park, shooting the ball, shooting the ball, shooting the ball, missing all these 3-point shots. He wanted to be maybe the next Larry Bird. I don't know. But bottom line is, the neighbor across the street was seeing him, or not a neighbor, someone across the street came to him and said, "Hey, you know what you're doing wrong?" He goes, "When you're shooting your now I don't play basketball. I'm just telling you a story. When you're shooting the basketball, you're doing this. Your elbow's out, so you're missing it. If you turn your elbow in, now do it. That little cinch of an inch to move you forward in that he couldn't see, but someone else saw. Just that little piece. That
Yeah.
little piece. Now he was hitting 3-pointers, made newspapers and everything else. Bottom line, sometimes it's those small things that make a big difference. Oh, we always say little hinges swing big doors,
Hmm.
you know?
So how, in that case, again, I'm thinking about a younger person. How does a younger person find that mentor or find that person to coach them, to see what they're doing and help correct their behavior in terms of business or life?
You know what? We get scared as human beings just to ask. You know, the tough part about it is, as much as someone can be, um, let's just say, I don't want to say not reachable, or you feel that this person is like, he's too big for me, like Tony Hsieh,
Mhm.
like Zig Ziglar, like all these individuals. We think that we're so small that no one would listen to us or even try to lend a hand or a word. So what I did was overcome a fear that I'm nobody, that I'm just a street kid, that I'm just this street thug, that I'm no one, I'm uneducated. I got an eighth grade education. I'm letting you know. I have an eighth grade education, but I had it like for 3 years because I stuck in the eighth grade for 3 years. I could have been a teacher in the eighth grade. But what you're saying is, you feel you're so small because you're so uneducated, so unprepared, you're so unexperienced. And the thing is, inexperienced. So bottom line is, that's your value in your brain. But if I had a kid come up to me who's 13 years old or 15 years old, or even 18, doesn't matter, and they come to me and say, "George, can you teach me a little bit about sales? I want to get into sales. I want to be in the real estate business, but I don't know how to do so." Okay, yeah, I'll tell you. First, you got to go study the book, get the real estate license book, and study all that stuff. And then, you know what? It's like, find a real estate agent that maybe would spend maybe an hour of their time a week or maybe a month to kind of coach you and then have these questions. Go through the first chapter and you meet with them. I go, how do I do that? How do I reach out to that real estate agent? How many real estate agents in Fort Mill or Steel Creek or in Charlotte itself?
A whole
Thousands.
bunch. Yeah.
Okay, start picking up the phone and calling all these specific real estate agents, and just ask them, what does this mean? What does this mean? Can you help me out? I want to be in your shoes in the future. Great. When you do that, then later on, remember what I said, by the time they're ready and they already know and they're studying sales and client relationships and business and understand the real estate part of it, the law and everything about real estate, the contracts, that's the tactical part, not the strategic part. Then get into the marketing of it. Guess what? He'll be seeing his face on a billboard when you drive by. So it's all about picking up a phone and just asking for help. Because if they came to me, I'm not going to say, "Hey, I'll charge you $100 an hour." The thing is like, I'm going to help this kid. Because one day, you never know, when my daughter or my son needs a house and stuff, you never know. Hey, Grayson is looking for a home and stuff like that. And I don't trust anybody else. It's like, and you've always been great, man. It's like, "George, I got it. I'm going to take care of them. I'll find them the best deal. I promise you. I'll even waive my fees, whatever it is, right? It's like, I'm going to take care of them because when I came to you, you took care of me." Reciprocation. Very
Yeah.
powerful. So you reach out. The authors of the book, all you got to do is pick up the book. You see the name of the author, and guess what? It's there. Find out. Google him. Send a letter. Will they respond? Don't know. You just like, hey, you just never know. Some will, some won't. So what? Next. We always call it SW, SW, SW next. Some will, some won't. So what? Next. You move on. That's it. Don't get your heart broken. Sometimes their whole life is something in shambles. They're not replying to anybody. They're going through their own mess, or they're too busy. Bottom line is, who cares? Someone. That's what happened to me. I would read an author of a book at the library, and I would reach out to them. And I've had 5 that reached out to me. I had 5 that called me. I had 5 that emailed me. Me going up to Zig Ziglar didn't just happen like that. Me meeting Brian Tracy didn't just happen like that. I had intent to go meet these people. I wanted to meet these people. The greatest mentor that I had, that I respect so much, that I love so much, was a gentleman by the name of Bill Glazer, a marketing legend, direct response marketing. He owned men's suits clothing stores in Baltimore. And the thing is, and you would think he was just a retail owner for men's suits. He was a master marketer because he hired another mentor marketing guy to teach him, which is someone I follow also. And the thing is, but the greatest moment was when he called me on the phone and he said, hey, what do you want to ask me? I was like a kid, a 13-year-old girl waiting on a call for Taylor Swift. The Taylor Swift. I mean, I was that excited. And then I would just tell him, because he came up in the retail business and I wanted to be great in the shoe business, and he made connections for me. So the thing is, and I learned everything. I studied his books. I saw him on stage. I would buy videos of him on stage. I would do everything and anything to learn everything from him on how to create a headline, a sub-headline, what colors to use, what size fonts, everything, how to turn this, how to make a little silly mark on a letter so people, or a coffee mark, like if you place a cup, drippy coffee on it, and it's like, what the heck is this? Or even wrinkling an envelope, so when they receive it, it's like, what is this? Are you going to get the straight letter, or you're going to get the wrinkly one that's all crumbled, and straighten it out to read it, and then say, hey, photo inside, please do not bend. That's a trick. Somebody, what photo is it? Guess what I just did now? I opened it. Now I read it. Now the copy on the letter has to be strong. So those are controls. So bottom line is, all these type of things that we do to get people to take action, to get a lazy sloth off the couch, to get up, put on the shoes, get in the car, turn their motor on, drive 30 minutes out to get to my store. How do you do that as a business owner? Because I know how to do that. The thing is, but they don't know that. They don't know these little tricks that I like to call them one-trick ponies.
Mm-hmm.
They send out a postcard. It didn't really get a good response, George. Really? Oh, I put a post on Facebook or an ad on Facebook. It didn't get a good response. Really? Okay. I go, they think if they do one thing, that's going to be that magic pill. No. Everyone responds to something different. So you have to implement different response mechanisms in order to get those responses. And then you measure who responded to what, so you can keep on digging that person and getting them and build frequency from that person, meaning them coming back over or referring your business over and over.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of great points you're bringing up
I
here.
think so.
Yeah. What about your spiritual side? When did you have a switch from one perspective to another? What was that switch like? How is that benefiting you or not? Or like just kind of more information on that side of things.
Well, it was, I'm young. I'm in the infancy stage when it comes to faith. I'm a work in progress, as most everybody will always be in a work in progress, but I'm truly a work in progress. When I wanted to, I had kids, they were growing up. My 27-year-old moved away, right? Had to learn to be his own man. And then I have my daughter, and then I have my son. So what could I do to be a better man, be a better husband, and be a better father? Well, it's to introduce them into faith. but I needed it. I wanted to see what it was all about. Start, went to one church in Houston, Joel Osteen Church. And but it was when it was the small church, his
Okay.
father's church, not the
Hmm.
big mega church, but the small church in the heart of the hood. You would go in the morning, you would see the crackheads walking around, you would see the prostitutes walking around. It was like an oasis in a lost desert, in a desert, right?
Mm.
Right in the middle of this ghetto. And it was a pretty little church. And he would do, I think, 3 services a day and stuff. And then they had the Spanish services. So the thing is, so he was doing a lot. So the thing is, so I would go there and we would listen. It's like, wow. So me and my wife went there and we loved it. Great message. It was beautiful, right? And the thing is, next thing you know it, got a call that, hey, George, we're going to move you to Atlanta. Do I leave the church? I go, I'm barely just getting connected with it, right? Or do I go with this great position that I've been trying for forever for another brand?
Hmm.
Moved me to Atlanta. Moved to North Atlanta, Roswell, Georgia. There, then I found a church, and it was Andy Stanley's church.
Hmm.
So I was like, Andy Stanley, the son of Mr. Charles Stanley. Okay, well, I'm not really too much of Charles Stanley because very soft spoken, almost like Zig a little bit, right? But without the enthusiastic part, but very soft, and his glasses and suits and ties, and you see the audience is like very suit. I go, I'm not a suit and tie guy too much. But Andy, when they told me about Andy, it's like, okay, we'll go. Loved it. Oh, it was just great teachings, great messages. And the kids loved it. It was just a great time. Well, guess what happened? We got to move again. So we moved to the Outer Banks. Couldn't find a church that clicked. Just for some reason, it's like, you know, sometimes they tell you it ain't the church that's got to click with you. You got to click with the church. Well, I don't know. It's like dating. It ain't the woman you have. It's like no. It's like no. I gotta get connected with. I gotta be somehow connected. So so we just kind of fell away from it a little bit. Moved to here to Charlotte. Been here, going on 7 years, and then we hopped and we went to some satellites of Andy Stanley's churches, and then something changed in that. Maybe the I think whoever bought it over or whatever took over wasn't the same. So then I saw these little stickers on back of these trucks and cars and stuff, elevation, and I went to that, and then next thing I know it is like went there and I just started and it was just a message. So it was nice, but I was doing it not just for me, but also for the family, just to somehow stay connected, just to get a good word, a good positive word, not you're gonna burn in hell type of word,
Hmm.
right? So it was nice to go in there and listen and hear the worship. So it was good. It was good. It was nice. But remember, it was something new to me. Didn't grow up in a faith family or any of my families. They weren't that. So when I got into that and started going, well, guess what? Is things were starting to feel good.
Hmm.
And then literally when you started going, maybe I got there maybe in November, October, and then November, December, January, February. February, everything was coming at me. Business, family, marriage, you name it. It was like somebody just opened the doors and just let the hounds at me, just like attack. It just felt like that. Just everything was coming at me, including the kitchen sink. They were just getting things thrown at me, just like in any man's life or any person's life. When it rains, it pours. It really
Hmm.
does. When it comes, it comes. You're not ready for it. At that point, it comes, and I joined a men's group because I didn't have any friends. I worked, and it was family. Work, family. Work, family. That was it. That's my life. Or go upstairs and start writing or doing something. At that point, I joined a men's group just to hear and talk to men. I just wanted to socialize outside of work, family, work.
Hmm.
And then I was listening the first night I got there and I sat down and I heard these men's stories and I'm like, oh, or let's just say a gentleman's story. And then I'm like, oh my God. And I thought I had it bad. Like, whew, man, he's struggling. I never want to be in that situation. So I went back and I was like, I'm going to work to be better because I don't ever want to be in that situation. That's a bad situation. And then next thing you know it, then I heard another one. That's a bad situation. Now my past is bad versus where they're at or what their past is, but they were going through something at that point that was just crushing them. You could just feel it was breaking their bones, not just their heart. But you're talking about, so I said, I never want to be in that position. But it came to me. So the thing is, and that was started happening. So it was those group of men, the fire pit, we call it, that helped me go through those little challenges, those little valleys, that season or seasons that come through. Then they invited me to the outpost, Carolina outpost. Then you get there and I'm driving down. It's like, man, it's a lot of white men here. I go, huh? Let me see. It's like, so next thing you know, it is like I get there and their arms open and they're hugging you and we're talking. It's like little things strange, right? And stuff. But okay, so I get there and then I'm sitting down and then you go through these sessions and you learn. And then it was great. Then they use movies to help fill the story. These little clips. And there was one that it was the Goodwill Hunting piece. Mm-hmm. Where Robin Williams and Matt Damon was all this stuff going through and he was just this tough rock to break or, whatever it is. And bottom line is he had the folder. He goes, oh, have you ever been through that? And you could see the kid was abused. And the thing is, or Matt Damon was abused, his character. He goes, yeah. No, but personally, yeah, I have. And then he goes, man, but you know what? It just doesn't matter. Throws a file. He goes, hey, it wasn't your fault. It ain't your fault. It ain't your fault. And he kept on repeating. Matt Damon's like, yeah, no. It ain't your fault. No, I know. It ain't your fault. Right there, I'm sitting in that chair. And even right now, I get chills because it was like, George, who you were before you sat on this seat of King of this Cap, it's not your fault. It's not even your fault. I had to remove myself from that seat, go behind the curtain to this little space, and I just broke down because it's like, it wasn't my fault. I'm not that person. I'm totally somebody different. I was made that, but it wasn't my fault. And you're talking about all the traumas that a man may feel, whether it's abuse, physical, sexual, verbal. It could be no father in the house, no mother in the house, absent parents, the drugs, the environment, you name it that surrounded you, the abuse that you saw in the house, everything that came in pieces, whatever you're going through, that's not your fault. It's what surrounded you. But the thing is, it sometimes that puts stuff in your mind and it creates who you are because now you have that defensive and you're going to, just make sure no one hurts you. Make sure no one takes advantage of you. Make sure everybody respects you, even if you have to put them in fear of you. The thing is, so at that point, man, I remember they asked somebody about baptisms, never had a baptism there in their whole time. And then I'm like, let me find out what a baptism is. I know when they talk about the baby and you're baptizing, in the Catholic Church, you would go see that and stuff, and still don't even really know what that means. It's just like, oh, it's supposed to be maybe, oh, God is to protect him. But I went there, and next thing you know, it's like, and they said it's like, oh, it's just kind of just, you when they put you in the water, it's like, almost like dying, having a death, and then you're coming up in a new life. It's like, oh, okay. And then when they got up to the table, it's like, he goes, let me know if you ever want to. Like, I am. What do you mean you are? No, I want to. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I want to do that. What? And they got so surprised. Like, so next thing you know it was like a virus that went in. It's like one of my group members came in, running to me, he had tears in his eyes. He goes, George, he grabbed me by my arms. I heard. I go, and he's crying. And want to make me cry. I'm like, yeah, because I didn't know, like, why y'all so excited about this? I go, it was something because they saw who I was before I came to the group. Mm-hmm. They saw the challenges I was going through, and then they see where I'm at then to make a choice. At that point, at 7:30 in the morning, I got baptized there, and then it was a very powerful thing. I think to me the most powerful and significant thing that I ever experienced in my life because it made an impact of where what I'm going to do in my next steps going forward. And that was just to, just be a better father, and then make sure to be a leader of my home in order to make sure my family walks in faith. And, I can't force anyone in my family to walk in faith or follow the word of God. All I can do is present it like those that presented it. And it took me 56 years where I'm at to even hear something, not just, listen to it, but to really hear what it's all about. And that was my faith. I mean, it's like, here and then meeting individuals like yourself and everybody that we're all on the same road. That feels so good. Like-minded men walking on the same road. We sometimes verge off a little bit, sometimes then we come back. As long as we have our friends and the people that we see each other as guardrails so we don't go over the cliff. That there's always someone there to grab you and pull you back.
Yeah. So even though you went to church in Houston, in Atlanta, and so on, and that was many, many years that you've been going to church, right?
Yeah.
But you still didn't have that transformation until recently, right? So what would you say is the reasoning? Like it just takes for some people longer than others, or like what was your mindset when you were going to church, like Joel Osteen's or his father's church and Stanley's church and so on? Like what was your mentality like when you were going to church at that time versus now?
Well, when I was in Houston going to Joel Osteen's church, you got to remember that's like saying, "Hey, I want to go work out and lose weight and get built," and you go to the gym maybe 1 hour a month.
Hmm.
So you go in there like, "Hey, oh, it feels good, right?" And next thing is like, I don't want to go today. And then you go maybe the following week, maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour turned in 30 minutes. You're dabbling, you're getting putting your toes in the water. You're kind of dabbling in it a little bit.
Hmm.
You love the word. Yeah, we would go because it was great and the kids loved it. But my mind was money, business, trying to make some. That's all where my brain was. Now the thing is everybody says like money doesn't mean anything. It's not everything. It's about as important as air. When you need oxygen, you need oxygen. When you need money, you need money, right? So the thing is, but you don't know when you need God, and the thing is because you don't understand it, you don't see it, you don't see God, you don't feel it. You'll put a fan and you can feel the air, but you need it because that's oxygen. So I always could kind of compare to that. You might not see God. You're talking to the air. You're talking to the wind. You don't hear no response. You don't see that. George, like when you see in the movies, George, my son. You don't hear that. The thing is, now some may hear that. I'm just saying, I never heard that, but I felt it. It's
Hmm.
different. I feel the air. I feel the air blowing on me when I walk outside and it's wind. It cools me or it heats me, whatever it is. Bottom line is, it was it's slow steps because you're still surrounded by the things that you don't need to be surrounded with. The money, the people that are not well minded, well, in the right mind. I'm not saying my business team associates were, you know, bad or criminals. They weren't killing anybody, but you saw the drinking, you saw the women, you saw the drugs, you saw that they were so focused on money and the partying. And these are your business associates that, oh, you're having a good time till 4 in the morning, drinking, having a good time. And you're still in business. You're functional, but you're still doing that stuff. And so you had to change what made me, I think, from those points, because it was a long process, is, you know, a drug addict sometimes that has to hit super rock bottom to say enough is enough.
Hmm.
Just, I'm done. I'm tired of doing drugs, shooting the needles in my arm every night. I used to hold arms of drug addicts when I was around 11 years old so they could find a vein because they had no veins. So they would have craters on their legs and their arms, dried craters, because it was just picking, picking, picking. I remember that vividly, how it looked like. But they would find something. I remember they used to get the needle while I hold their hands to find a vein. Remember, I'm 11 years old. picking one vein and then they slipping it in, slipping it out, and then you would see the syringe and the blood would go into with the heroin because they would cook it, and then they would see it. You would see it come in and go in and out, go in and out, and in and out, and then you would see them just go, just relax and do go into their little space. So, but even then, they're enjoying that moment, but and they haven't hit that rock bottom to say, I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want to be surrounded by these folks. So it was that point where you had to grow up. I had to grow up. I just had to say it's enough. It's I think it's time for me to stop thinking about me and start thinking about my kids. You know, the world has a way of coming in and changing their mindset and everything, and it's I tell you what, TikTok can influence somebody like this. Instagram, like this. Social media can do this very fast. YouTube videos, everything, because what you said, the music,
Mm-hmm.
hey, it's not music now, it's social media. They can influence a whole election if they needed to. So they can do whatever they want because all you have to do is pay millions of dollars to a specific social media platform to say, hey, I need you to change it this way. Not this, not by this much. Remember what I said? This much. And we can kind of sway people to think this way or that way about this stuff. You have all that information. So the thing is, so I believe if I put my daughter and my son into around people that have positive influences, that have a positive message, then you know what? Things will transform in their life. Now, it doesn't say that I'm not going to make a mistake in the future. I'm like I said, I'm so imperfect, but at least I'm loved for my imperfections, and those change. I work on that. I'm a work in progress. When it comes to my children, they won't listen to daddy because daddy's daddy. He's just being dad. Don't do this. Don't do that. Better do this. Better do that. This is why you have to do this. This is why you have to. So I'm just a dad, a parent. Same thing with mom. Mom is more loving. Oh, if you do this, you do that. But bottom line is, and then you know what? When you get them around their friends will change them very fast. Friends have beautiful ways of influencing somebody because you don't know where they're at mentally. I always told my daughter, look at your friends, look at their surroundings, look at their household, look at their home. Are they single parent families homes? Are they, what's happening in their home? Who do they surround themselves with? Because guess what? You're going to be distracted to that, and you're going to follow them because you think that's the cool thing to do. They could say, hey, you need to be this lifestyle. You can choose that lifestyle. And because the mass is there, you will follow the masses. At that point, it's like, hey, you know what happens to the masses of sheep? They get headed to the slaughterhouse. I go, the thing is, don't be that. We'll go against the grain. I go, and you'll see how many of them stick around with you. Because when you go against the grain, they'll walk away from you. I'm not preaching. I'm just telling you that is life. When I can go back to the neighborhood right now, and if I had a Bible in my hand and I went up to 50 of my friends, which I don't have that many. The thing is, but if I went to 50 of my friends and said, hey, hey, let me talk to you about God. It's like, George, I don't have no time. I don't have no time. I got to go. They'll do that. They'll respect me. They won't spit at me. They won't beat me. They won't do anything to me. But they'll maybe listen to me for a little bit. Thanks, bro. But I'm good. I'm good, George. The thing is, I appreciate you, sharing that. But I got to go, man. They're not disrespecting me. They're just not ready for it. When it comes to my kids, I see it's that they're easily influenced.
Mm-hmm.
I have to step in as a parent and just a man now of faith. But let me tell you. But they know who you are, Jerry. They knew who you were. So they say, remember you in this? Remember dad this? Remember what you did as your teenager? Remember, I haven't did that, but you did that. And they'll throw all that stuff in your face. It's okay. Yeah, I remember that. I go, I'm trying to help you so you don't experience that. So they don't, hey, you have to try to become the bigger influence in their life. It doesn't always work. We're parents. You're a parent. You don't understand what I go through as a teenager. Oh, we've gone through a lot worse, right? I mean, think about when you moved here and struggled to give what you give your kids now. They don't know anything about seeing people killed in the street. They don't know about the drugs that you've seen, the families and all that. So everything, they don't have a clue. They see it on a TV screen. My son, when we were teaching him, there was a song called "The Bandana" from a lyricist, a rapper I know. He don't know about that. I had to explain what the bandana represents and how he's using it as a piece of cloth and how they created fashionable. Then it led into colors and gangs, and then how it transitions from generational gang members from father because he got killed. Now the son saw the killing. Now he's going to seek revenge. And then now he wears the same bandana color to go seek revenge. So it never stops. So it isn't about a piece of cloth, it's what it represents. So it's the same thing when it comes to kids. I have to teach them that. That's all. So, what's tough is that, being a leader and as a family member, you might not be the one to split the Red Sea for them. But if you give it to them, as I said before, knowledge, showing them, my hopes is always that my kids, follow faith. Yes, you'll make mistakes. Yes, you're going to go have drinks with your friends. Yes, you're going to make a silly mistake and dumb mistake. Yes, you'll regret it tomorrow. But the problem is just don't make those choices that are very hurtful and long term. And the thing is, keep it light, walk soft on light ground. The thing is, so you don't fall into a quicksand very fast.
Yeah, yeah. There's a saying: don't use a permanent solution for a temporary problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't make a mistake that you can't recover from,
Right.
basically.
Yep. Yeah.
So, George, it's been great talking to you. Anything else you want to share about the work you do, the business, or personal, or anything else with the audience?
Well, I tell you right now, I think the most important thing that I want to do when it comes to the audience is, I think if it's when it's talking about personally as a man, it's just, or just an individual human being, is always strive to learn to be better, a better father, a better husband or spouse, be a better business person. You never stop learning. When you stop learning, that's when everything dies. I think at that point is in business, I think it's always learn to be better. I think when you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, what happens? You grow. Because you grow and you grow, but remember, those like-minded individuals got to be striving for more, because as I said before, you can't learn how to make $1 million from a $50,000 salary person. You have to surround yourself with those that you say, I want to be just like them, and then you go hang with them. And then at that point is, hey, who do you learn from? Oh, I learned from that guy, just like I did with Bill Glazer and his mentor. The thing is like, oh, I got to learn from that guy. So the thing is, everyone that I associated or follow was because this person led me to this person, and that person led me to this person. I never stopped. I just grew mentally on my marketing tactics and strategies or sales strategies. When it comes to business, always remember that. You're not a plumber. You're not an electrician. You're not a mechanic. You're not a manager. Be a marketer first, marketing your services and your products. If you think like a marketer, you're going to be stronger than just saying, I'm just an owner of this business. I only have this product or this service. Be a marketer, because your job as the owner of the business is do one thing: drive traffic to make more sales. Drive traffic, and if you have salespeople, then their job is to sell, but you drive the traffic to them. You become the marketing to drive business. That's it. The thing is, and then as far as in faith, you have to go in and make your decision, and you should never have to follow and fall into that, that to be so broken that you have to lift up one finger to try to grab someone to pick you up. I think it's really important is, I'm not trying to tell you to be a Bible thumper, is what some people call that. The thing is, but sometimes it's just listening to a message that is in a positive way. I don't know who you might listen to. I don't know what you want to listen to, but sometimes you just need someone to say, listen, someone's here guiding you. You're right, God is with you. When you're ready, reach out. He's always been there for you. He's wanting you to reach out. That's it. The thing is like, you make your decision, but even if it's little by little, you know what? You're going to have tons of people coming in saying, about what not about God, negative things about the Bible, negative things about your pastor, negative things. You can learn so much negative, but when you have a positive message, that's what you hold on to, and you move forward with that. And that's what you do.
Yeah. Um, as far as people reaching out to you, if you want them to reach out, where should they find you?
Ah, great. You can go really to George at shoedogguru.com or Footwear Business Profits or GeorgeValdez.com. In fact, I would welcome everybody to go to GeorgeValdez.com. I'll turn it back on just so you can email me there, but you'll find my email there and my contact information. And again, it's a site that I made it unactive as far as ordering the books, but hey, like I said, you can always email me and say, hey George, I would like one of your books, and I'll just send it to you. The thing is, I think it's really important, and which one book that I'll be working on, and it's called Selling God. And the thing is, and it isn't about selling God, it's just how to introduce God to people that maybe want to hear it. So I already knew I already knew the title's been in my brain for the last 2 years, Selling God. And the thing is, but so don't I want to make sure everybody says, oh, you're trying to sell it to us. No, I'm trying to introduce you to it. The thing is, so that's really important. But again, those are all things that I'm working on right now. And again, just go to georgevaldez.com, look at a little bit of my story and look at some of this stuff. But again, it's just, in fact, I always say that is how your website should kind of look like, because it introduces who you are, your story. People want to get to know you before they know your products and services. It makes it much better. In fact, when you're talking, the thing is, what I think, Jerry, what you're doing here is great, because now people see you who you are,
Right.
and also introducing other people involved with this podcast and learning a little bit about them. But most important is that showing how you care about the people that sit on this table, and that your interest about these people that sit on this table. So you know what, you're doing everything right, not just as a business person, but more so as a human being, just wanting to know someone and learn about them. So I applaud you on that.
Yeah, thank you. So George, yeah, thank you for sharing your story, sharing a lot of good nuggets about marketing and sales and reaching out to people. So yeah, it's been great talking with you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the audience. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me here today.
Yep. Take care.
Take care.